am going to tell you something that might feel dangerous to hear if you've spent years blaming yourself for being tired, moody, unmotivated, disconnected from your body, or inexplicably obsessed with men who gave you breadcrumbs. Because 30 days ago, I realized that what I thought was bad luck in love was actually my body whispering that it was out of alignment. And when I stopped trying to fix my personality and started honoring my internal rhythms, everything changed in ways that still feel almost unfair. Because here's the truth no one says out loud. A woman whose inner state is regulated, nourished, and respected becomes unforgettable without trying. And the first sign was subtle, not dramatic, not Instagram-worthy, but undeniable. I woke up calm, not numb, not anxious, just grounded. And calm is the most underrated form of feminine power because it makes you unshakable. And when you're unshakable, you stop chasing chemistry that burns you and start attracting desire that stays. And I remember sitting across from a man who used to trigger my overthinking, watching him lean in slower, listen longer, soften without me doing anything differently on the surface, because my energy had stopped asking for reassurance and started assuming safety. And psychology backs this, even if pop culture ignores it. People respond to your nervous system before they respond to your words. And when your internal world stabilizes, your external world reorganizes to match it. So the first rule of those 30 days wasn't control or restriction. It was reverence. Reverence for sleep, for light, for real hunger cues, for pleasure without guilt. Because a woman who respects her body teaches the world how to respect her too. And if this already feels like it's touching something deep in you, stay with me. Subscribe. Turn on notifications. Because this isn't about becoming desirable for him. It's about becoming so regulated and self-trusting that losing you becomes the regret he never fully recovers from. By the middle of that month, I noticed something that changed how I understood relationships forever, which is that attraction isn't created by intensity. It's sustained by consistency. And consistency begins inside the body, long before it shows up in behavior. So when I stopped spiking my days with chaos, caffeine crashes, late nights that robbed me of clarity, and emotional overextension disguised as passion, my presence became slower, richer, more intentional. And men feel this before they can explain it. Because a regulated woman doesn't rush. She doesn't overgive. She doesn't anxiously fill silence. And that restraint reads as depth, not distance. And I could see it in how conversations deepened without effort. How boundaries stopped feeling like walls and started feeling like standards. How I no longer needed to explain what I deserved because my body wasn't signaling desperation anymore. And this is where philosophy quietly enters. Because when Nietzsche said that chaos gives birth to a dancing star, he wasn't talking about burnout. He was talking about aliveness that's contained, directed, integrated. And the moment your internal chemistry stabilizes, your desires refine, your choices sharpen, and suddenly you're not attracted to potential. You're attracted to presence. And this is the shift that makes you unforgettable. Because you stop bonding through stress and start bonding through safety. And safety is addictive to people who have never experienced it. So if you're listening to this and feeling a sense of relief instead of excitement, that's not boredom. That's your system recognizing truth. And I want you to comment your biggest realization so far. Because naming it anchors it. And anchored women are the ones who change the room without raising their voice. By day 30, I understood that fixing your hormones isn't about fixing yourself. It's about coming home to yourself. About choosing rhythms that honor your biology instead of fighting it. About letting your body lead instead of forcing it to keep up with a world that profits from your exhaustion. And the result wasn't just clearer skin or steadier moods. It was authority. The kind that doesn't announce itself. The kind that makes a man realize too late that access to you was a privilege he didn't fully appreciate. Because when you are internally regulated, you don't attach to outcomes, you don't cling to attention, you don't negotiate attraction. And this is why he never gets over you. Not because you were perfect, but because you were embodied, present, whole, and rare. And I want you to understand this deeply before we close. The woman who is in tune with her body is not competing with anyone. She's calibrating herself. And calibration changes everything. So if this spoke to you in a way that felt personal, that's your signal. Rewatch this. Integrate it. Stay connected. And remember this line, because it will carry you forward long after this video ends. A regulated woman is not easy to replace, not easy to forget, and impossible to ignore. And if you felt seen today, leave a comment saying I needed this, because this is where your return to yourself begins. And before you think, this was some mystical glow that happened to me and not something reproducible for you. Let me ground this in reality. Because the most dangerous myth sold to women is that transformation requires extremes, when in truth it requires consistency that feels almost boring at first. And boring is only threatening when your system has been addicted to volatility. So what I protected during those 30 days wasn't a rigid routine. It was my baseline. My sleep became non-negotiable not because I was disciplined, but because I was done betraying my future self for temporary stimulation. My mornings slowed down enough for my body to wake up before my phone did. My meals became regular and satisfying instead of performative. And I stopped using busyness as proof of worth. Because a woman who is always rushing is unconsciously signaling scarcity. And scarcity repels what abundance attracts. And this showed up in dating in a way that still makes me smile. Because men stopped trying to impress me with noise and started offering consistency. Plans, follow through, presence. And that's not coincidence. That's resonance. And the psychological principle here is simple even if it's rarely taught. People mirror the pace and self-respect you embody, not the standards you explain. So when your body is regulated, your expectations no longer feel like demands. They feel natural, inevitable, reasonable. And this is where feminine power becomes effortless. Because you're no longer managing impressions. You're managing alignment. And alignment does the work for you. And if this is clicking for you, I want you to stay close to this channel. Because everything we talk about here is about becoming the woman who doesn't have to chase outcomes because she understands causality. What surprised me most wasn't how others responded, but how I responded to myself. Because once my internal chemistry stabilized, my inner dialogue softened, not into weakness, but into clarity. I stopped catastrophizing delays. I stopped romanticizing inconsistency. I stopped confusing emotional spikes with intimacy. And this changed the caliber of men I entertained without me consciously filtering harder. Because regulated women don't attract chaos. They repel it. And the men who are still addicted to drama feel uncomfortable around peace, which means they remove themselves without confrontation. And that alone is a form of protection most women never experience. And philosophically, this is where self-mastery becomes visible. Because as Marcus Aurelius said, the happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. But the quality of your thoughts depends upon the state of your body. And once your body feels safe, your mind stops inventing threats. And suddenly, you're not asking, does he like me? Anymore. You're asking, does this align with me? And that question changes everything. Because alignment is magnetic. And magnetism doesn't plead. It pulls. And here's the part I want you to carry with you long after this video ends. Because this is where women either integrate the lesson or turn it into aesthetic inspiration that fades in a week. Becoming unforgettable isn't about him remembering you. It's about you never abandoning yourself again. Because when you stop leaving your body through overthinking, overworking, underreading, underresting, and overgiving, your presence becomes rare. And rarity creates value without effort. And that's why he never gets over you. Not because you were dramatic or intense or endlessly available, but because you were grounded, warm, regulated, and self-led. And self-led women rewrite the rules of attachment without ever announcing it. So if you feel steadier right now just listening to this, imagine what happens when you live it. And I want you to mark this moment. Comment your biggest takeaway. Stay subscribed. Turn on notifications. And promise yourself this. You are no longer outsourcing your worth to exhaustion or chemistry or validation. You are returning to yourself. And once you do that, you don't just become attractive, you become inevitable. And that is a frequency no one forgets.